Εξομολογήστε το Κύριο διαγατός, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια.
Hello, brother. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Very good. What's your name?
Fayaz.
Fayaz.
Yes.
And where are you from, Fayaz?
I'm from Bangladesh, but I was born here in the UK.
Oh, okay. Which part? In London or?
Hertfordshire, just north of London.
All right. That's great. That's great. Well, I've heard that you had left Islam.
Yes.
I see. Can you tell me a little bit about that? When did you leave it, and what were the, things that led you to leaving Islam?
Yeah, so I was born into a Sunni family, and I'd say as a child I was pretty devout. I mean, even now I still have bits and pieces of the Quran still memorized in my head.
Really, it'd be great if you could recite something, because it's always
It's always, I'm not, you're not a real
Muslims say
Muslim.
there's no Christians converting to Islam, so we want to show the world that there are Muslims converting to Islam, to Christianity.
If you want, I can do that.
Yeah, well,
Surah
you have
Al-Fatiha.
Fatiha. Yeah, that would be a good one.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Malik Yawmiddin Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in Ihdina siratal mustaqim siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin.
I mean, okay, yeah, that's so that certifies you as a Muslim, ex-Muslim.
Hopefully.
So he knows Fatiha. All right. So take me back in time. How does this come about? Like, what were the events that led to your losing your faith in Islam?
Yeah, so I'd say my doubts started around when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, as I was approaching secondary school. I do believe secularism kind of had a pull on me, which led me away from Islam.
But you said you came from a devout family, because as far as I know, devout people, mostly they teach you Islam from when you're 3, 4, 5 years old.
Yes.
You're supposed to learn the Quran. Did you do any of that?
Yes, so every week I had an Arabic tutor who would come teach me about Islam, teach me how to recite the Quran, and pretty much every week it was in and out, constantly doing that. So I still know a fair bit, but I'd say leading up to that age, my main question as a Muslim was, why am I praying to God in Arabic? God is omniscient, He knows everything. He knows me personally. He knew me when I was in the womb. And for some reason, I have to recite the prayers.
Let me ask you one more thing, just when we are on this topic. When you had this teacher, what kind of teacher was he? How did he teach you the Quran? Was he strict? How was his discipline and everything?
He was so and so. Sometimes he'd be strict, sometimes he'd be more relaxed. But he was just like the other average imam.
I see.
Nothing
Well,
really
no,
special
because
in
most of the imams that I know, they were very strict. They would hit people, even children and stuff like that. But I guess being here in the UK, they're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, I think that, as well as the fact that he was tutoring at our home rather than me
Going to the masjid.
I think
Okay.
that might have made an impact as well.
That could be. All right. Just my previous experience from my friends and stuff.
It's a good thing to point
Okay,
out.
so you learned the Quran and everything just like all the Muslim kids do, and you said you had a secular stuff had a pull on you, and you said, why is it that Islam has to be Arabic God and everything has to be in Arabic, right? So how did you resolve that in your mind?
So actually I didn't, because the only God I knew was Islam. I'd never heard the gospel, I'd never known anything about other religions. For me it was either Islam or nothing. So I thought, Islam clearly isn't cutting it. I'm leaving. I'm going to pursue a godless lifestyle. And I did.
And how old were you when you started?
I'd say it was 13 when I
13.
committed to it.
Wow.
But it wasn't up until like 15 or so when I was a bit more open about it. I was a bit in denial, saying, yeah, I'm still Muslim, but still swearing, still doing
okay.
all sorts of stuff.
But were your parents aware of it?
They did at 15, that's when I told them.
Wow.
They weren't
Okay.
too happy, they were quite upset. And
Did they ask you to pretend to continue as a Muslim life?
yes, because
They did, right?
They were like, why can't you just be a Muslim still? Can't just go to the mosque?
Just don't profess that you are
yeah,
not a
don't
Muslim.
tell anyone you're an atheist.
They're an
if you don't
atheist.
believe anything.
I see.
So
Got you.
that annoyed me a bit because it's a bit disingenuous. Like if I'm an atheist, I'll have to be honest about it. I'm not going to lie.
Well, the taqiyya is the
Taqiyya's
one of the tenets
everywhere.
of Islam, main tenets. Without taqiyya, there's no Islam, right?
Fortunately,
So they were, but were they really strict about it, or were they just like, okay, he's just going through a phase, he's young, or something like that?
I'd say it was both. So, because I was a teenager at the time, it makes
Did you have
sense
brothers and
also.
sisters?
Yes, I have an older sister and a younger brother.
Oh, okay.
They're both
How did it impact those two?
I don't really interact with them much. We're very isolated siblings. We live on our own. We live in our own worlds pretty much, just
I
like
see.
living in the same house.
Got you.
It's interesting, but
Wow,
it's sad
okay.
as well. Yeah, what was the question on? What was it?
So your parents they were not happy with the situation. They wanted you to
No.
continue as a Muslim. How did you handle that then?
I didn't agree. I was a very rebellious child. I always did what I wanted, and to my detriment a lot of the times. But I always did what I wanted, and so I continued saying I'm an atheist. I don't believe in Allah. I don't believe in Muhammad.
Were you not aware of the consequences of doing that?
I was aware of the consequences, and I did face the consequences sometimes. But I just didn't want to lie. I didn't want to face
So your
my beliefs.
family was not like a fundamentalist family that they would actually try to kill you.
No.
They weren't violent in that way.
No, they're not that. They're not like that. They're not even. My family's not really devout Muslims in general. I'd say at the time when I was younger, I was the only devout one. At this point of time, I'd say my mum's the only devout Muslim. But during this period of time, I'd say there were no devout Muslims in our family. They were just.
But they still bothered to get this imam to give you the
Yes,
Quran and all that.
They were Muslim by namesake. It was a reputation thing.
So it was a cultural thing to have learned the Quran rather than a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
I see.
Show everyone that you can read the Quran, that you're a good Muslim. Impress the family members, that kind of thing.
I see. So it's all about the outside, huh?
Yeah.
Got you.
A bit shallow, but
Yeah, of
that
course.
also annoyed me. I don't like the.
So you didn't find like real godliness in your faith.
Yeah, that
It
was.
was just all pretend.
Yeah, because I couldn't see any legitimate Muslims in my life. My family were very nominal. They weren't really taking it seriously. Neither were my siblings. And I wasn't really in touch with any of the mosques either. So
So then from there, did you leave home or did they kick you out or?
no, so I stayed at home.
Yeah.
And I'm still at home, by God's glory. I continued my studies and I finished my A-levels, and from then on I went to university. And while I was so I went away, I left home, and during this period of time, I became even more and more entrenched in this kind of secularism, more just debauchery, more hedonism, more nihilism. It was horrible. I was like,
Well, you were rebelling, right? The young
Yeah.
people, they were like, I don't care about Islam, or I'll show them, you know?
yeah, and unfortunately, university brings out that
Yeah,
rebellious
of course it
nature in me.
does. Yeah, of course.
So that was probably my.
It
lowest
encourages
point.
it, right?
It does, and it's disgusting, really. But yeah, I only grew lower and lower and lower. It became more and more depraved. I started aligning my ideologies a lot more with progressiveness. So pro-LGBTQ, live and let live, everything's true, everyone goes to heaven, that kind of stuff.
Right, got you. Woke mentality.
Woke mentality.
Got you, got you.
And until a certain point. So I wasn't enjoying my studies. I've only went to university to get away from family. So I wasn't enjoying my studies, I wasn't putting any effort in, and something inside of me clicked, and I was like, I can't keep this up for another 3 years. I'm not going to graduate at this rate. And I just felt a push to say, like, you need to drop out, you need to go home. So I rang up my dad and I told him, I don't think I can hack university, I don't think I can do it.
No, it's okay. Let me just hold
right,
it.
yeah, sure. And so I rang him up and I told him, like, I'm coming home, I don't want to do this anymore. And that was a really humbling thing for me. I felt humiliated. It was so shameful, just going back to my family. I thought I was going to go to university, live my own life, get away from Islam, do everything. But I came crawling back,
Wow.
and it was a bit. I felt a bit
And then they
disappointed.
we told you, right?
No, they were actually gracious to me.
Oh, they
I
were.
felt like the prodigal son in this sense.
Oh, nice.
They were very, very gracious to me. Thank God for my family.
Right, that's good.
So I started working because obviously I don't have a job. I don't have university. I got to do something. I started working in a warehouse, and the pay was good, but it was really soulless. So I was doing night shifts, 12-hour shifts in the middle of winter, every day, working Saturdays, like 7 days a week. It was horrible.
7 days a week. Wow.
I was making money, but it was lifeless. I had no social life, I had no spiritual life, I had nothing.
Nothing.
Just
Nice.
living to work, and I wasn't even seeing my family.
Wow.
Because I was going to sleep during the day. And eventually, in the warehouse, I met someone. He's from Ghana. He's a really good friend of mine now.
Ghana, I see.
Yeah, his name's Stanley. He's a very devout Christian, very well versed in apologetics, and he's an inspiration to me. I love him so much.
Wow. I know somebody from Ghana. He's a very nice person too. Anyways, go ahead.
So whenever I bump into him, we just start talking about whatever's on our mind. Because here we have this man from Ghana who's very conservative, biblical, very like on fire. And there's me, who's a liberal teenager, woke. We're like complete opposite ends.
Yeah.
But we were able to have civilized discussion. So we'd always have discussions about political views,
Yeah.
ideologies, religion sometimes. And religion was the most monumental one. So him being well versed in apologetics, he'd always press me about Jesus. Be like, do you know Jesus? I'd be like, yeah, I know Jesus. He's Isa from the Quran. This guy, he's a prophet, isn't
He's a
it?
prophet. That's all.
And,
He's not God.
He's like, no, that's not Jesus. That's Isa. Isa is not Jesus. And he'd teach me things about Islam that I'd never known. He'd
Such
teach
as?
me like Muhammad's character, the things he's done, like him and Aisha.
So you're telling me as a Muslim you did not know the story of Aisha and Muhammad.
No.
How do the Muslim imams they keep this information from people?
I think with Islam, it's very similar to how the Pharisees, I think, operated in the Old Testament.
Old Testament.
Jesus'
Yeah.
time.
Is that why they have it only in Arabic so that people like you, because I would say by 70% of the Muslim population doesn't speak Arabic.
I think it's more than that. But
Probably
yeah,
80%, yeah.
I think the whole it being limited to Arabic does hamper with the average Muslim's ability to
because Muslims
think about it.
When I even talk to Arabic Muslims, they say we don't oh, it's a very special old, a classical Arabic. We don't, you have to like interpret it in a certain way. We can't understand it.
Yeah.
I thought it was meant so you could understand it. Allah said, I'm going to send it in your language so you can understand it. But He didn't make sure that, you could really understand it because He used the Arabic that even the Arabs can't understand.
Yeah.
Which is really
God
strange.
should be accessible to everyone.
Exactly.
Not a certain group of people.
No, he's a very archaic Arabic guy who wants everybody to learn the archaic Arabic.
Or just recite it. Not even learn it.
Right.
Just
Well,
recite
yeah,
it.
just recite it. Because, anyways, go ahead. Don't get me started on this stuff.
Of course, it's a massive rabbit hole. Where were we? Yeah, so he would teach me things about Islam I never knew. And so my only knowledge of Islam were the rules and the guidelines. How I
Also,
live my life.
that was the thing that intrigued me because I haven't really had anybody explain this because I'm always like, I thought that Muslims were pretending that they did not know the age of Aisha.
No. I believe they genuinely don't know. But when they hear it, it's such a shock to the system, they can't accept it.
Because a lot of them say, oh no, well, he was a prophet, right? So maybe that was okay for him. But it shows apparently that they're not really happy with this situation, but they just have to handle it because that's what it is. Because they're like caught unprepared, like they just don't know how to react to this, and you get all kinds of different reactions from people. And now I understand that they literally don't want people to know what happened there. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe the spirit behind Islam and a lot of imams themselves actively try to suppress the truth about Islam.
Wow, that makes coming here a lot. Yeah, so I haven't heard this from a Muslim, ex-Muslim perspective, because that's a very important perspective in my mind because you already have the real experience of Islam, and in the real experience of Islam, this is something that's not talked about.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate.
Wow. Okay, well, that just tells us that we got a lot of work to do here.
We do. We've got to spread the gospel.
Yeah, and also to do some polemics.
Yeah.
You know, the polemics with Islam, and I've had this discussion a lot of times with Christians even. Oh, you should just preach the Bible. I'm like, not to the Muslims. They have been taught the wrong Bible.
Absolutely.
And if you have learned something that's wrong, and you say, no, that's from my Imam or that's from my Quran, then teaching you something would not help you unless it's like going to the doctor and you have a wound and the doctor just puts a medicine on it. He has to clean the wound first. So polemics is like cleaning out all the stuff you've learned, the wrong stuff that they've taught you about Christianity, and then the stuff that they haven't taught you about Islam because they don't know the real Islam. So as a polemics, we are teaching them the real Islam because that's what they've been missing. Because once they find out this stuff, they start losing their faith. They're like, what? I didn't know about this. Why did they not tell me that?
Absolutely, yeah. I think polemics is absolutely necessary because you gotta, in order for someone to be able to digest the gospel, their previous worldview has to be absolutely demolished, has to be shattered. Whether it's Islam or the woke worldview, you've got to show them that it's flawed. And then from then on, you give them the gospel.
But I'm surprised that you managed to do that at 13 by just... Nobody came to you and told you Aisha was 6 years old?
No one.
But you just thought that Allah is just speaking Arabic and I'm just sick and tired of this Arabic God?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I'd not known the history at all.
Really?
Nothing. I'd known nothing about Muhammad.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was a shock to the system when I found out about this stuff. So I'd go home and I'd double check it because I'd be like, this is really strange. He's telling me something completely different to my imams. And I'd go back and I'd check and I'd find out that this random Christian guy just knows so much more than all of these Muslims. And it annoyed me. I got really angry. I thought, these people have been lying to me for so long and I'm only just finding out the reality of Islam. And my whole family, they're also being deluded into this lie as well. And that's horrible. And I got really, really angry. And from then on I thought, every worldview I take, I have to scrutinize it. I have to properly analyze it to make sure it's accurate, to make sure it's the right and the morally sound thing to do and to believe in. So that's, I'd say, what spurred my search for Christ, because I saw this Christ-like man who showed me the truth, and I thought, this man is so godly, he's a Christian, and he's been more honest to me than all of the Muslims in my life. I want a piece of what he has.
Right.
So,
Wow. What was this guy's name? I'm just curious.
his name was Stanley.
Stanley. Okay. Well, Stanley, if you're watching, God is happy with you.
I'm going to send him
you
the
that.
video. He's going to love it.
All right. Great. I'm glad you would. Nice. So Stanley was just preaching the gospel to you?
Yeah, in a work environment, which a lot more Christians need to do. Christians are too scared to talk about the gospel in a work environment, and it's sad. We need to be more bold.
You're right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's for Christians out there. Talk to your colleagues about Christ.
Absolutely.
That's coming from an ex-Muslim. So, yeah, we got to do that.
Yeah, and the thing about this is, Stanley sowed the seed, but he didn't see the fruit of it until a lot later. So this warehouse we worked in, it shut down in just like a couple months. And so I took Stanley's number, but we hadn't stayed in contact until a bit later when I was saved. So he sowed the seed, and from then on, I started doing my own search into who God really is. And from then on, I reached out to another Christian friend who is part of a local university, and I asked her, I've got a lot of questions about Jesus and Christianity. Can you get me plugged in with someone? And so I got involved with the Christian Union, the Christian Society at that university. And it was really odd for me because, one, I wasn't a student. I dropped out of university. I'm not a student anymore. Two, I'm not even a Christian. So I'm twice an outsider there talking to these people. But they still welcome me with open arms.
Nice.
And they explained the concept of grace and God's shedding of blood so eloquently to me, in a way that me, an ex-Muslim who's so focused on works.
Didn't it bother you that they were mushriks and they were believing in three gods?
That actually didn't cross my mind.
Really?
I just didn't think about it much. I wasn't really taught the polemic side of Islam.
Oh, I
I
see.
was just taught the rules and the guidelines.
Well,
what to
I'm
do.
always dealing with the polemic side of Islam. That's the thing.
There's a whole other world out there.
Uh-huh.
So these people, they so gracefully dealt with me and helped me understand the gospel. And they invited me to church on a Sunday. And by God's grace, I was able to attend. And just interacting with the vicar, talking to the other congregation members, it was so heartwarming to be part of a community that was open and honest and sincere. As soon as I went there, the vicar, he just met me, he said hi, welcomed me, and I told him my situation. And the first thing he did was, maybe I can help you find a job because your warehouse just shut down.
Nice.
I thought, you've only just met me and now you're trying to help me find a job.
Which church was this, by the way?
It was an Anglican church.
Anglican church. Wow. Okay. Cool.
This vicar, I know the Anglican church is suffering right now, but there are some out there who are still holding on.
Right. So would you say this Anglican church was very Bible believing rather than, because there's a lot of woke churches out there nowadays. And
I'd say
a lot of the
it's-
Anglican churches are.
I agree. I'd say it's more Bible believing than most Anglican churches.
Most Anglican
but less Bible believing than the average church. So it's
Well,
kind of,
I think I understand your point.
it's kind of in a midpoint.
in the midpoint. Well, that's
Yeah.
great. Anyway, so the pastor offers to find you a job then.
Yeah, so I was so astounded by his love and his hospitality that I wanted to look even more into it. So I asked him, like, do you have something like this going on where I can ask questions? And it turns out later that month they were running an alpha course where they have like a Q&A where I'm free to ask my questions, to ask about faith, ask about the flaws or the good and the bad, whatever, anything. And I thought, this is awfully convenient. It's almost as if God orchestrated it. Like,
God works in mysterious
he
ways.
does. In hindsight, you can see
Yeah.
how
So somebody had a hand in it.
someone
Invisible
definitely played a
hand,
part
yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't me.
Of course.
It was all God.
Nice. Praise
And
the
that
Lord.
alpha course gave me the opportunity to be able to ask questions, which in a Muslim setting you wouldn't be able to do. And I was able to understand the faith a bit better. And these people, they provided me with resources to read. They gave me the Gospels. They encouraged me in all sorts of ways.
Nice.
And one morning, so I was still living debaucherously. I was still doing drugs, drinking, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And after a night out, I was reading the book they gave me. And at that point, I just felt so weak, so low. I had like a headache, I felt nauseous, awful, everything.
Yeah.
Physically, mentally, spiritually, terrible.
Yeah.
But being brought so low, I just felt so weak, and I just let out a prayer for God. I said, God, I don't want to go through all these hoops and hurdles to know you.
Oh, wow.
I just reveal yourself to me. I just want to know you.
Nice.
And he did. He spoke to me, and
How did
I
he
saw-
speak to you?
it literally was, I'm right here. Like, you've just not been looking. You just haven't seen. It's like a light switch that was just flipped onto my head, and I can just see him now. Although I didn't see him physically, it was just a voice.
Of course. You felt his
And-
presence, yeah?
Yeah, and I started crying tears of joy. Now, the way I grew up, I was always very repressed. I was very emotionally numb. So crying in general was... That's all right? Yeah, so crying in general was out of the blue.
Out of the question. yeah.
Crying tears of joy, that was the first time in my life. Never happened. I
Wow.
was so confused, so overwhelmed by God's presence. I was like, what is going on? And I realized, like, this is God speaking to me, this is God revealing himself to me. And from then on, I thought, Lord, my life belongs to you. And he's done wonders to my life. I've stopped drinking, stopped doing drugs,
Wow.
he's turned my life around.
Can I ask you how old you are or about?
I'm 21.
Wow, you're young, man.
He saved me at 19.
Really? That is so young. I'm very impressed. That's awesome, dude.
God's mercy is limitless.
And what brought you here to Speaker's Corner then?
So, this is interesting. So, in my heart, because of the way I grew up, how I thought I was quite upset about the lies that were permeated in Islam. In my heart, I wanted to be more an evangelist to Muslims. I wanted to be involved in some form of ministry to Muslims.
Ah.
And so I liked watching Speaker's Corner videos all the time, and I'm just seeing how people interact to try and learn a bit more about Islam and also see how they interact.
Wow.
And so
You're at the right place, man. This is the only place in the world where you can confront Islam on
I'm
one-on-one.
very, very blessed to live so close by.
Yeah, that's
So,
interesting.
Yeah,
So are you?
there was a bit more to it where when I was thinking about this, I was speaking to a friend, and so this friend, he's kind of been discipling me and helping me grow in my faith. And I told him, because of how emotionally numb I am, I asked him, I don't know if I have the empathy to be able to be a witness to Muslims. I don't know if I'm compassionate enough for that. And he said, pray about it.
True.
And I did.
True.
So later that night, I had a dream where I was standing in the pearly gates of heaven, and I saw the face of a man in white, spoilers, it's Jesus, standing facing away from me. And I said, Isa, I'm right here, let me in. And he said, turn away from me, I never knew you. And I saw hell, and it was horrifying. I saw a sea of faces, and they were all moaning and groaning and just in anguish. Exactly how the Bible described it. Weeping, wailing, and gnashing of teeth. And I woke up in shock. Initially, I started questioning my salvation because I was like, oh no, am I a Christian or not? But then I realized, hold on, I thought of Isa. I had a dream where I was put in the shoes of a Muslim, going to see Jesus, calling out to his name as Isa, and realizing he's not the real Jesus and being sent to hell. And I was in tears. I felt so heartbroken about it. God gave me the empathy to be able to understand what it's like for a Muslim who's going to see that.
Yeah.
And so that prompted me to be more proactive in this whole reaching Muslims.
So Jesus is not responding to Isa then?
Apparently not.
Oh,
I don't know.
Well, I always had my doubts because, I think Allah got his name wrong, man. Can't be Isa.
I don't think the Arabic word for Jesus is Isa.
Well, you can look it up in there's a way to verify this. You can look it up in the Arabic Bible. If it's in the Arabic Bible, it's Isa, then it's correct.
Yeah.
However,
I think it was Yasu or Yashu.
Yesu.
Yeah.
Yesu al-Masih,
Yes.
which comes from the Greek. Isus is Yesu.
Yes.
And in my language, or I don't know what is it in Bengali, it's also Yesu. Yesu Masih. You call it Yesu Masih. The Arabs call him Yesu al-Masih. So his name is Yesu. So how did the Quran get it wrong?
The Quran gets a lot of things wrong.
Right.
Trinity wrong.
Yeah.
It gets Mary wrong. It goes on.
Imran and all that stuff. So yeah. Wow, man, this is really nice to see somebody like you out here. I pray that your testimony will definitely touch the lives of Muslims out there, because there's a lot of them. They have doubts. They are just afraid of, if there was no death sentence in Islam, is what's keeping Islam together, I think.
I agree.
Because if that death sentence wasn't there, half of them would leave tomorrow.
And I don't think it's just the death sentence. I think it's the whole societal pressure. And
The other death sentence is the suicidal death sentence, meaning that we're gonna abandon you and suicidal suicide. That means you lose your family, all your friends and everything. And people are really hesitant of doing that because this is the only faith that does that. There's no other faith that says if you do this, we're gonna do that. Not at least not from their text. I mean, people do that.
Yeah.
But not in their text. But in their text it says if somebody leaves Islam, kill them. So that gives you a written permission that this is halal.
Absolutely, yeah, it does.
Wow.
That's something I always fear. Am I going to be killed for this? But then
Yeah.
I realized,
So what's the deal with that? Now let's look at what's going on, because you said you're living with your family, and now we're making this video. I don't know if your family watches YouTube, but they may or may not come across this video.
well, whether they are or not, it's God's will. And if it does, I pray it touches their hearts. Now, with my family, it's a very unique situation because you hear all these horror stories about Syrian, Afghani, Iraqi Christians telling their families, I'm Christian now.
Are you saying Bengalis are more mellow?
Not necessarily. Because my family are more westernized.
Oh, I see. So they're not
so
as.
they're a bit more relaxed.
I
Or at
see.
least in the beginning, when I was younger, they were a bit more strict. Now, having spent more time in the UK, they've calmed down a bit.
Oh, okay. How long have they been here? Oh, you said you were born here, so they've been here
So
for a very long
My parents
time.
moved here when my dad when he was about 10, something like my mum a bit later teens.
Oh, so they are very westernized.
Yes, although they're not.
Is your mom wearing a hijab?
Yes, she does. She's the only devout Muslim in our family.
Oh, wow. So that means, because I know a lot of Muslim women that don't wear the hijab.
No, yeah. And
Did she start wearing the hijab, or was she
was
always
wearing it.
She was always
My
wearing
mum was
it.
always the most devout. And
Wow.
it sucks because my mum is also. The
How about your
closest
sister?
person. My sister doesn't. I don't. Believe
And your
my-
mom doesn't mind that she doesn't?
She was worried initially,
Yeah.
but now she can't do anything. My sister's 23.
Oh, okay.
She's old enough to make her own.
Was your sister ever coerced into wearing a hijab?
My parents have asked her before, but
And was
they
she-
can't. She has the same rebellious spirit that I did,
Oh, I see.
except she hasn't grown out of it. So
Well, I think. Are you planning on, talking to your siblings about this, or do you think you said that you guys were not very close, right?
yeah, so my siblings and I aren't very close,
Right.
but that's not an excuse for me to not share the gospel with them. Me being a sinner, I keep putting it off, and I keep getting really worried as to how it goes about. I've put off a lot, and I really should make more of an effort to reach out to them. But
Right. So, do you have a church right now that you're going to?
yeah, so
Is it an Anglican church?
no, so I go to a Pentecostal church.
Oh, wow, a Pentecostal
A
church.
more mellow Pentecostal.
Okay, a
They're
more
not
mellow
as crazy as most people think.
Wow. Okay.
But at least my church isn't. The reason why I went to this church is because they're a lot more expressionate in their ways they talk, their prayers, and the way they express themselves to God.
Right.
And that's something I lack a lot. I'm a very strict, rigid. They're a bit more let loose. Go
Well,
sing
I'll talk to you
praises.
later on, because there's some things that maybe I can expose you to certain things where you can learn. I think we are in the learning phase now and they're teaching about early church, which is kind of important, especially if you're going to do any kind of polemics.
Yes.
Because you come across a lot of questions where, if you know your history, it can help you a lot when you're talking to people.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why I would invite you to that, but not on camera. I'll let you know later on. But this is amazing. I'm so glad you're here. And I really hope that this journey that you started is going to be very exciting. And I hope that God gives you the spirit and the wisdom to carry on, and just gives you the strength to stay in the spirit, and to dwell in Him. That's what we're supposed to abide in Him.
Absolutely. And in the end, this whole testimony, it's not about me. It's never like anyone's testimony. It's not about any of us. It's all for God's glory.
That's right.
So we're seeing a story of a sinner who was wrapped up in all sorts of different worldviews, who was into drinking, into drugs, into pornography, all this stuff, and how God, being so good,
Yeah, man,
pulled
because
him
you're
out.
only 21 years old, and
It's
you
tough.
sound like you're 30, 40 years old. Like
I'm an old soul.
Yeah, you're an old soul, that's for sure. Wow, I'm very impressed. That's great. So, what is your plan on how you plan to grow in your faith?
So right now, 2023 has been more of a humbling kind of stop and reflect period for me, and it's helped me grow a bit more in wisdom and just learning to hold my tongue a bit sometimes.
Gotcha.
So moving forward, I think I just need to continue letting God build me up, be discipled, and find opportunities to reach out to Muslims and build up on my skills there.
So, are you into Bible study?
Yes, so I have a friend who both of us lead Bible studies weekly, and
Nice.
it's great because we have a bunch of young adults who join us.
Nice.
And having a group of Christ-committed young adults is so hard to come by.
Right, it is.
So having a group like that, I've been so blessed.
Wow.
Not many young people have that. It's sad. It's
No,
really sad.
right. Well, you're going to start new groups, I'm sure. There'll be a lot more young people joining this.
God willing.
And we'll hope that there'll be a lot more Muslims finding Jesus. I pray that your God will make you fruitful and will help you abide in Him forever.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
very much.
Good to see you. All right.
Glory to God.
Another Muslim, now Christian. God is working in this country. He works in mysterious ways, as you heard from our brother Fayaz. All right. Thank you, Fayaz. Good to see you. I'm out.